All right, you ready?
Yep.
Okay. Three, two, one. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Morningscape Podcast. I'm Matt Moody, joined by DJ Mitchell to cover Friday's five-game NHL slate. DJ, how you doing?
Oh, doing really good. Thursday night. Normally we don't record, but we have a 6-5 game slate, I guess, if you want to call it that. And I thought, why not tonight? Got out a little bit early from class, and let's get it going. Yeah. The first game being Colorado Vegas probably won't be on any main slates, but if you do want to play it, all the power to you. We're probably not going to touch on it much though.
Yeah, I mean, that game's pretty ugly anyways, so, if you do play it, best of luck to you and yours truly. So, granted, it's a relatively smaller slate than we're used to. We have a little bit of free time, so I asked for a couple questions in the group game.
God, it's back. No, just keep going. I think he knows. I'll just text him.
It's back. And so we got a couple good questions, and I think definitely the first one that I think is an interesting point, given the slate we're looking at, is like, how do you attack smaller slates? I think that's kind of like do you still go like the 4-3-1 sort of stacking in GPPs? Like, is it better to kind of like hunt for goals? There's many different ways to approach it. So I guess DJ, like, what's your overall process going into a slate like this where there's only 5 games when we're used to, really bigger slates?
Yeah, I like to go kind of stars and scrubs on a smaller slate. You really have to, if you want to win a GPP, especially, you're going to have to nail a guy that just has a crazy game at a really low price. There's always one, it feels like, and you just got to hit that guy with the stars that are going to get you the points. I don't know. The smaller slates I normally don't play nearly as much volume on because there's just not much room for error. Like if you decide tomorrow that you're going to stack Line A and Ellers and they just have a bad game, I mean, your lineup shot. So I don't know. I feel like it's not unwarranted to kind of onslaught a team either. I don't mind that strategy at all, especially a team on the back-to-back. So yeah, I don't know if I have like a specific system of like a 4 and a 3 or whatever. I like to onslaught one lineup if I feel really confident, and I really like to get a little bit contrarian with maybe a third line that has some power play upside here or there, with a lot of stars in it.
Yeah, I think something that I find myself doing on smaller slates more so than larger slates is when I stack a line, like, maybe they're high priced, maybe they're just like a chalk line or whatever, but rather than like also spending up on like a defenseman to go with them, I'll try and find like just a cheap like defensive stay at home sort of guy that if that line smashes, like maybe I can get a 3.2 assist or 2 assists or even like a fluky goal from someone. Immediately springing to mind, we had a 2-game slate on Wednesday, and I played Joel Edmondson, and he ended up scoring the empty net game winner, or not game winner, but I guess
clincher,
insurance goal. Yeah. And so, it was just a fluky, random happenstance, but the only reason that he was in a position to do what he did is because the guys that I stacked scored a bunch. That Schwartz, Tarasenko, Shen line they scored a bunch, they were winning, and then Edmondson goes out there to close out the game and runs himself into a goal. So that's just one example, but I think that's kind of something that I would definitely not do on a bigger slate, playing guys that like we know have limited upside, because it's more of like a game flow sort of thing for me on these smaller slates. But I think in general, I'm more apt to stacking. I'm probably one of the least likely to stack, like, of most people. Like in GPPs on bigger slates, I kind of like the goal hunt, so I'll go like 2s rather than like full lines. Like I'll take guys only with strong shot floors, but in smaller slates, I'll definitely widen my range a little bit just because there's less options. So
yeah, I don't mind that. What was the other question we had?
And then it was just more of a general like correlations and stacking versus like cash and GPP, like that sort of like mindset. So, I mean, it's such a vague question that I don't think there's one specific answer. Like, obviously, you want to correlate in GPPs, and obviously, stacking in cash is a bit risky. Like, that's just the name of the game at this point. Um, but is there ever an opportunity where you would find yourself like looking to stack in cash, maybe on a smaller slate or a bigger slate? Like, is there sort of like a cutoff for you where it becomes like, no, this slate's too big for me to stack?
Oh my god. That's a really interesting question. I have stacked in cash before, but normally no more than two. If there's just been a trend of shot production coming from like I think Carlson and another player could have been warranted tonight being last night when you listen to this. Um, I think, especially in a really super up tempo game, maybe that one isn't the best example of that, but I don't mind a defenseman and a forward at times, but I rarely stack line mates because the odds of getting the assist on a goal, I think it's a bit of luck, especially a secondary assist, which is like all luck. So for shot volume and hopefully goals in cash, rather than playing for assists, which is just really difficult to do. So that's why I don't do it as much. A defenseman in just an absolute smash spot in a smash game, there's always a forward that can go along with that player. That's kind of the only situation where I do that in cash.
Yeah, I kind of make sure that like I have to have both guys on a bigger slate. Like, correlations aside, like if they're both like flat out like fantastic values, then I have no problem with it. But I'm usually pretty hesitant to like you said, kind of go all in on a line or something, just because there is a ton of risk that comes into taking a zero on a bigger slate. Well, in cash games, I should say, because in GPPs it's not as big a deal, so it's balanced in general. So, with those two questions covered.
Also, the one question I had to DraftKings was, would you be posting the NHL slate soon? And they said there was some sort of a problem, and they'd be posting it within the hour. So we might not have DraftKings pricing.
To FanDuel we go.
To FanDuel we go. Yeah, I'm just checking right now to see if we have any reviews really quick. Our reviews are up, so, I mean, people have been at least rating it. But no new actual written reviews. So you guys are letting me down. I was really feeling vocal tonight. But whatever, no big deal. So we're going to have to use FanDuel pricing. Normally it correlates decently to pretty well. If DraftKings does pop up, we'll at least take a look at it to make sure that there's nothing that is absolutely noteworthy. So let's just dive right in. We have game one. We have Ottawa at New Jersey. Yeah, Ottawa at New Jersey. Do we want to mention anything about Colorado Vegas? Just one note, or I don't have anything, but
yeah, I mean, I don't really have much either. I didn't look into anything that would have changed between these two teams, but they're both terrible, and the cheap defensemen on either side are, if you're playing an all-day slate, you can probably find some decent value on defense, especially on the Vegas side with Hunt and Miller. I would not use it for your forwards. I think there's more than enough scoring available on the main slate. So, yeah. Let's just go to Ottawa at New Jersey.
Yeah. Okay. So Ottawa is currently playing as we're podcasting. They're up 3-0 last I checked. Let's check. Still 3-0 against the Flyers. So they'll be on a back-to-back tomorrow in New Jersey. New Jersey obviously has been a very surprising team this season. Is there anything that jumps right off the page to you as we get into this? Injuries, but.
So, yes, Kyle Turris is confirmed out for Friday's game as well. He has some sort of viral infection, his coach said. So that leaves a lot of ice time for someone like Derek Brassard or Jean-Gabriel Pageau, as you lovingly call him, JG Pageau. Both of those guys are in line to play a lot more on Thursday night. If this game continues to be a blowout, I mean, I would expect that the minutes are kind of reeled in for everyone. So they should be pretty fresh going into Friday's game, assuming Philly doesn't mount a comeback. I don't have a like I don't have a problem going right back to the Ottawa well. I mean, especially the goats in Carlson and Hoffman, because I am all in on this New Jersey team coming back to earth.
Mhm.
And even if they are like a legit good team, they're playing at such a high pace that I think there should be more than enough fantasy goodness to go around. So I don't really have a problem with the back to back here, given the context and some of the values that we have.
Yeah, and it looks like it's not completely confirmed yet, but Schneider should be out. Kincaid is the probable starter at this point, with a very, very strong chance that it is Kincaid in net. Schneider returned to practice at some point, but it seemed like Kincaid was definitely going to get the nod. So it kind of just adds a little bit more. Because Schneider, I think, is really the glue that keeps that team together. Definitely shown that he is one of the elite goalies in the NHL, in my opinion. With him out and Kincaid in, it definitely boosts a lot of the guys on Ottawa. And I'm not going to stray too far away from the top guys. I know Peugeot had a goal tonight. I don't hate him, but I'm really looking at Hoffman. I'm really looking at Carlson. I'm checking the lines tomorrow to make sure they don't change. Brassard could get a huge bump in minutes. So those kind of guys are who I'm interested in.
Yeah, I think. Well, I mean, you mentioned Schneider might be out. It's not. Well, he was injured as of last week, but I guess his wife's expecting a baby anytime today or tomorrow. So he's definitely not playing, but he could back up. So I mean, that's just kind of like a don't erase him from your mind because he's hurt or something. He's just out for personal reasons.
Yeah.
But the lines from Devils practice today, you have Taylor Hall is playing with Nico Hischier and Drew Stafford. It looks like Palmieri is he hurt? Is that where he is?
Yeah, did not work off ice. Wait, yeah, he did not work off ice today, so he didn't do anything today. But John Hayes did not rule him out for tomorrow.
Okay.
So that's the news I see.
Yep. So I mean, I guess that's the thing to keep in mind. Hischier is well. Let's check the old FanDuel pricing. I don't actually know how he's priced on FanDuel. Okay, he's 5.2, which is probably correlated to somewhere in the mid fours on DraftKings. I would expect him to be somewhat in there. I don't think he's a smash value by any means, but if you're playing Taylor Hall, there's absolutely no reason that you shouldn't be playing Nico Hischier, the first overall pick from this past year's draft. So, and then Drew Stafford as a fill-in is super cheap. So keep an eye out for the Palmieri news because that could really open up some value here on the New Jersey first line. Anything else from this game that you want to mention? I mean, I think Hoffman, Peugeot, Carlson are my Ottawa takes, and there's really nothing else I love.
Yeah, this doesn't feel like the game to me to kind of stray from the main guys. I know I mentioned maybe take some cheaper guys around the way, and some people might talk themselves into guys like Gibbons or something, but I wouldn't do it here. It doesn't feel like a good spot to me for kind of I don't know. This is not the game that I'm looking to take some of the cheaper guys in. You never know who's going to score, I guess, but I'd look at Hall, Hoffman, the top guys in this game for sure, if you're looking at anyone.
Yeah, so let's go on to Winnipeg at Columbus. Winnipeg is playing on a road back-to-back, just like Ottawa is. Winnipeg's currently going up against the Penguins, so that should take a little bit more out of them than someone like Ottawa beating up on Pittsburgh. And Columbus is just like a generally really, really strong team. Interesting
playoff team.
Yes. Interesting note from last night's game between the Sabres and the Blue Jackets. Cam Atkinson is back with Dubinsky and Boone Jenner. So that's, I mean, I think what that does is it really spreads around their scoring. And I think it ultimately hurts Atkinson's and Panarin's value because, yes, they'll still be together on the power play. But it's kind of almost like a Toronto situation where you have like your three best players centering three different lines, basically, in Wenberg with Bjork and whoever he's going to be with, and then Dubinsky, Atkinson, Jenner, and then Foligno, Josh Anderson, and Artemi Panarin. Like, I'm not really sure where I'd want to look there. So do you have any, like, anyone who jumps out to you from the Columbus side?
I mean, as far as a cheap option, Anderson saw 18 minutes without power play time with Dubinsky and Jenner. So yeah, I don't know. He is kind of there maybe as a really cheap option, but I think if you're gonna actually, I think the Atkinson, Foligno, Panarin line has been super dominant. It all correlates on the power play. I really like it tomorrow.
Were you not just listening to anything I just said?
I mean, I was kind of listening, but I sort of zoned out.
Because
you said
game,
they did
flipped.
Switch it.
Yeah.
They flipped Anderson and Atkinson.
Yeah, so they started the game that way, and then they flipped like halfway through or so.
Now I see what you mean. But they didn't skate today, did they? I didn't see anything about them skating today. Okay. Yeah, the thing about yesterday's game is I always watch the Sabres, but when I have an accounting quiz at about 8:40, we missed a good amount of the game, and then we did the podcast, and I couldn't get the game and podcast to both work at the same time. So unselfishly, I turned off the game to podcast. You're welcome. So yeah, I did miss that. I honestly I see that on HockeyViz, but I didn't know what it meant, and I sort of zoned you out for a second because I was checking my phone because I had like 5 texts. But yeah, I see what you mean now. Okay, so Anderson's up with Foligno, Panarin. Atkinson's down. I really like Boone Jenner, honestly. Boone Jenner has come back and played pretty well. But I don't know. It's kind of tough to pinpoint like an exact pairing I like in this game.
Yeah,
but I don't mind Atkinson Jenner.
Yeah, that's a strong play, I think.
Yeah.
Jenner's sliding onto that power play too as well. I'm always enticed by Oliver Bjorkstrand, especially when he's playing with someone like Wenberg, who's such a gifted playmaker.
Yeah.
He did only play 12 minutes last game. Wenberg only saw 15. So it's pretty clear that that's like the third line now in terms of ice time. But I think they would work better in sort of like a game stack, because if Winnipeg is winning, I think Wenberg and Bjorkstrand would be used more in an offensive role, whereas Dubinsky, Jenner, Atkinson is more of like a defensive line. So I guess it's kind of...
DraftKings prices are up.
Woohoo!
Woohoo! Yeah, no, back to what I was saying before. What I was going to say is Werenski is kind of becoming a Corsi monster. I know he had an extremely good Corsi game against Buffalo, only 4 shots on goal, but it seemed like his Corsi was much higher. He really is producing. I know you said something about how the Tortorella's over or something, but I really think he'll be jumping up into play a lot more, and I think he's stackable with anyone. Seth Jones or Werenski are both really strong plays, in my opinion, almost any night, but I think Werenski's going to really turn into a DFS monster again. And his price could get back up to where it was last year, around $6K. But right now at 5.4, I don't hate it.
Yeah, and obviously that power play work makes him a phenomenal asset. So he's probably, he's very much in play in whatever format. On the Winnipeg side.
Yeah, I was going to say, we haven't mentioned Winnipeg. All right, go on.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I can kind of throw it to you if you have thoughts. We kind of talked about Morrissey and Byfuglien, like both feeling too cheap for their roles, and then they have those awesome top 6 forwards. So anyone here that you would kind of want to fit into your lineups?
So Winnipeg is just coming off of, I mean, they're going to be coming off a back-to-back, but before that, they hadn't played in 5 days. So I don't think it's going to be much rust coming into this game, after that long of rest. I mean, it's really tough to pinpoint the scoring on this team. And if you miss on this slate and you go with the wrong line, then you're not in a good situation. If you go Laine Ehlers and Wheeler and Scheifele go off, but I really think you're going to want to just kind of ride one of those 2 forward lines. Kyle Connor doesn't get the power play time. I don't quite think he's that viable at 4-1 on DraftKings. And I'm really leaning towards going with Wheeler and Scheifele tomorrow. I just feel like they'll draw the lesser of 2 evils as far as what line's going to match up against them. And Dubinsky, would you say the Dubinsky line is going to be the shutdown line for sure?
That's typically how they use Dubinsky.
Yeah. So I think Dubinsky will be on the Line A line. So I'm kind of looking away. I know Matt doesn't completely love the strategy of looking away. I mean, there's a lot of time on the ice. You never know what's going to happen, but I'm kind of afraid of Dubinsky. Maybe not a ton, but I'd rather target a different line.
I mean, just to throw this out
Columbus
there.
are good, but yeah.
I would imagine that Dubinsky matches up against Scheifele.
All right. See,
That's-
it's hard to tell.
Yeah, so
It's a
that's
toss
kind
up,
of
but
the issue. Yep. So
yeah, I don't know.
Winnipeg at Columbus last year, just to see what happened last year. Last year, the line of Wenberg, Saad, and Gagne primarily went up against the Ehlers line, and Dubinsky primarily went up against Scheifele, Wheeler, and Andrew Copp at that time. So, I mean, that's kind of, I don't know if that actually supports what I'm saying or it's just like tangential, but I think what it goes to show is that we can't actually predict line matching in 80% of circumstances, and in the other 20%, there's not a huge chance that it matters. Like, that's kind of my main takeaway from it. So I think if I was really feeling frisky about this game, I would go with Line and Wheeler and kind of limit my downside from stacking Scheifele with him because he's so point dependent. And I would still get that power play correlation because Line and Wheeler by themselves can each put up 7 or 8 shots on net in a night, and they can pay off salary without killing you. I don't think Scheifele can do that. And there's still clearly a bunch of upside with Line and Wheeler. So I think that's kind of my sneaky stack of the night, at least this early. I think we'll get to a couple later on that might not be sneaky, but I think I like a lot more. So
now is a different correlation stack.
yeah, I think you cut out. I didn't hear what you said.
Oh, well, maybe it'll be on the podcast. Maybe it won't. We'll move on.
Okay. 2, St. Louis at Carolina. Carolina flies home from Toronto to play the St. Louis Blues, who are currently awaiting them. It's always a situation that I find intriguing because you would think that, one team, it's almost like the home team is playing on the road because the road team has been staying in the other team's home for the last, 48 hours. So I don't really know what that means, but I always found it funny when they do that to teams, make them fly all the way back home to play in a back-to-back against a team that's just been hanging out for a couple days. So anyways, the Carolina side, there's a ton of value here, but I hate targeting the Blues in any format, anytime. Like, they're just such a good defensively sound team that really mucks the game up. So, DJ, thoughts on Carolina or the Blues here?
Yeah, I mean, I think I like the Blues a lot in this matchup. Carolina on a back-to-back. They're just – it's weird because I really like Carolina's defense a lot, and I really think it's coming into its own a lot more and starting to really mesh the top 4 at least. But coming on a back-to-back against St. Louis, who just has one of the most dominant top lines, I really think that people are going to shy away from Schwartz, Schenn, and Tarasenko after Sobotka, Stastny, and Steen stole the show last time. It was a mini slate, but last slate out. So I'm kind of thinking a little Tarasenko Schwartz action. It's really expensive, but it's there. I mean, they did get a goal on the power play, so it wasn't like they completely gutted. But at the same time, I think Carolina on a back-to-back, you're going to want to look at St. Louis top line.
So, DJ, don't click on any game logs right now. In 10 games, how many points do you think Jaden Schwartz has?
Like total in 10 games, like total amount of points, like goals and assists.
Yep.
10?
He has 14 points.
Okay. Yeah, he's not playing poorly.
No, and he's been apart from Tarasenko for the majority of the season.
Very sad.
So, I mean, now they're back together. They get Braden Schenn, who has really, I think he's been better than I expected him to be. If you look at his expected goals for and his high danger opportunities, Braden Schenn is really, really doing a great job of getting down low and just making himself available for rebounds and one-timers. And he has one of the highest scoring chances for per 60 of any center in the league at this point. So I love that trio playing together. I think I'll be loading up on them. And yeah, I hope people play Steen or Stasny over this line
Yeah, me
because
too.
this is absolutely where the offense is going to come from. So
Yeah, I'm down. I'm totally down for really spending up on Tarasenko, Schwartz, Pietrangelo, and just trying to find a cheaper stack, one that we might mention in the next game, to get you a different kind of correlation that can still be very valuable. But is there
yeah,
anything on the
I
Carolina side? Because we didn't really dive into them yet. I mean, there's a number of ways to go. We talked about them a lot on our last podcast. So, is there
well,
anything you wanted to mention?
I I just want to say Petrangelo is 6.8. I think he is an egregious play, especially if you
Wow.
play him over Eric Carlson.
Yeah, well, he's really expensive.
I
My good
mean,
lord.
he's
Let me look
been
over
really
on
good.
FanDuel.
Like he's been really good. Don't get me wrong, but like I don't see myself paying this much money for a guy like Petrangelo.
Yeah, on FanDuel, he's 1,000 less than Carlson. It's kind of more in play, but 200 less. Yeah, you're looking at Carlson.
It's interesting.
Yeah, so that settles that dispute. Maybe, unless if you're going full stack mode with Pietrangelo, no, I agree. He's not a cash
Just yeah,
viable
and
guy.
just the live before we, um, well, I guess before we head into the next game, Carolina, Lindholm is the guy that I think you can absolutely play. He should be on a line with Sebastian Aho. Both of those guys are very strong values, and I mean, you've heard me talk about Lindholm many a time on this podcast, but I think he's always one of the better plays in this mid range at wing. He's only 4,500 on DraftKings, and I think this is an awesome spot for him personally. That said, I will not be stacking Carolina. Just as I said, my rule about the Blues.
Yeah, no.
And let's go to Nashville at Chicago. Um,
Yeah.
before we do that, I just saw that Michael Haley got a 5-minute major for hooking.
Hmm.
I hope that's a mistake because that must be the most gruesome hook in world history. If you got a 5-minute major for it,
Yeah, he must have had like a hook on his hand, like a pirate, and like stabbed someone. Captain Hooking. Oh boy,
so
I'm. Yeah, that's got to be. I mean, was it through the score app? Because the score app is
yeah,
sometimes
that's
quick on the draw to say something. I'm guessing it would meant high sticking, and they clicked the hooking button. Although they
yeah,
probably didn't click anything. I'm sure it's algorithm, blah blah blah. But
that's got to be some sort of record though, if it is true, which I doubt it is. But anyways, Nashville at Chicago. Chicago just got embarrassed in Las Vegas. And I'm sure Patrick Kane's been embarrassed many a time in Las Vegas, but this time it was on the ice. Oh. Um, and with that, he gets new line mates. The entire Blackhawks organization seems to have shifted up. I think most importantly, though, we're looking at a first line for Chicago of Jonathan Toews, Brandon Saad, and Alex DeBrincat. Is this the moment we've been waiting for?
yeah, no, I'm definitely considering to bring it in cash. Yeah. I mean, I just saw in an interview DeBrincat was asked about what do you think of your new line mates, and he said it's a good spot for me. Those are two really good players. Thank you, DeBrincat,
Yeah.
for your wonderful quote. Yeah, they're pretty good at hockey. Now he's in play, very in play.
Yeah, I saw a different quote he had from today as well, and he said something like, "Yeah, the NHL's a bit different. Like I can't just go out there and score a few goals whenever I feel like it."
Yeah, that is one way of looking at it. He did have I think he had about 9,000 goals in the OHL for Erie.
Specifically 8,874.
Ooh, I was really close, but yeah, I mean, he definitely is in play at 3,400. He really rounds out your cash lineup. If you're trying to spend up on a plethora of other guys who we've mentioned, so I'm totally down for that kind of a play, all day, every day. I mean, Taves is just so good at getting the puck in, like dishing a puck off to make a perfect play for someone to score, and DeBrincat has a great shot. So
Yeah.
and he has Cat in his name for you, Matt.
Yes, thank you. He is an awesome play. And also noteworthy is the Patrick Kane line is now Nick Schmaltz, Kane, and Richard Panik. Panic's been up on that first line, so his price is all the way up at 5.3. So I don't think he's like a must play or anything, but just keep that in mind if you're stacking the Kane line. But I think here I'm more interested in the Nashville side. I mean, Philippe Forsberg has been just incredible this season. I mean, I think you should expect him to be incredible, but he has 7 goals, 5 assists in 9 games. Clearly, losing Mike Fisher didn't harm him in the slightest. Guys like Yossi and Subban, they both play together on that first power play unit. I think this is another spot where you can play those 2 guys together and get yourself some high floor guys. If you remember last year, Nashville just owned Chicago in the playoffs. I think Chicago scored a total of like 3 goals in 4 games. Is that what Dave Wilson would tell us?
That sounds about right.
Yeah, and I think they scored about 8,212 in that series. Like, they just wiped the floor with them. And I think Nashville's kind of your sneaky stack situation for this slate. And for me, I think it starts at the defense. Like, if you want to spend up, Yossi, Subban, Forsberg, you got yourself some high upside, some really high floors. I mean, obviously they'll have to score a couple goals to pay off value. But you could realistically get a Yossi, Subban, Forsberg combination on the power play. So I think they're just awesome plays, and they should play a ton of minutes. One thing I did see, and then I'll let you talk, DJ, is that Samuel Girard was playing with Roman Yossi at 5-on-5 in practice today.
Yeah.
So that should be a good look for his minutes. I would doubt he gets power play time, but at 3.3, I don't think you need power play time from him playing with Roman Yossi to make him a viable punt option.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. I'm trying to look if there's any updates on lines. Did you see any updates on lines? Because I'm not seeing a confirmed morning skate, or whatever you want to call it, line for Nashville.
No.
Because they look like they did a lot of flip-flopping last game.
Oh, you think? Okay.
So I don't know what the lines are going to be.
Check Daily Face-Off.
All right, I'll just go with whatever they say. I mean, maybe it'll be different from what Hockey because Hockey Business has, like, it looks like a spider web of all the flip-flopping they did. So Nashville has, they have the same thing that is kind of on Hockey Viz as far as the actual lines. But I just wonder if there's any cheap options in this game besides the Brinkat. That's something what I'm trying to get at. I mean, it seems like every guy that had like decent minutes as a cheap option did not get power play time. I mean, Hartnell would be one that did get power play one time, but he's kind of goal or bust, so I would not play him in cash. If he is only a guy that you could stack in GPPs if you're feeling super risky. Obviously, he's a guy that he's kind of net front presence on the power play, you'd say? Or is he on the point? Net front.
For Hartman?
Hartnell. Scott Hartnell.
Oh, Scott Hartnell. Yeah, he's the net front guy.
Yeah, so he's boomer bust, is what I was getting at. That's one guy with power play time. But then you look at like Kalle Jarnkrok and Pontus Aberg, and both of them had good minutes last game. They have some upside together, but they don't get power play time. A guy that did get power play time would be Fiala, who only skated 10 minutes with power play 2 time. I don't think he's in play tomorrow. So it's kind of like the guys that, unless if they get a ton of power play minutes, they're really not good options, the cheap guys on Nashville. And I think just kind of DeBrincat is the cheap guy for Chicago. But you kind of named all the stacks that are viable, so I'm not going to dive into those at all.
In summary, I think your Nashville plays are Forsberg, Subban, Yossi, and then you also just look for the defense there. In Girard and Ekholm are always, Ekholm's always a viable mid 3K defenseman, and then Girard. Chicago side, you have the DeBrincat at super cheap, and then I think you pay up for the rest of those guys. Like, I don't think there's any slam dunk values, and you don't really need that many values on a slate like this. Like, even if you're rolling multiple lineups, I think you can play, 60% DeBrincat and 50% like Ekholm or Girard, and you can find yourself a lot of money to work with, especially if you look at Ottawa guys, New Jersey guys. Like, they're still pretty cheap. So last game that we will cover is Dallas at Calgary. Dallas broke up the Ben Sagan-Radulov line. We'll see if that lasts through tonight's game against the Oilers, but currently Nick Ritchie is on the first line alongside
Brett
Ben
Ritchie.
Sagan. Did I say Nick?
Yeah, you did.
Okay, my bad.
It's okay. I coughed. I just say Brett Ritchie when I cough.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he is a. So Brett Ritchie last season had. Well, I don't have it up right now, but he had somewhere in the top 30 to 40 in the NHL, I-Corsi per 60. So the minutes that he did get, he shot the puck a ton, and I think look at what he does on Thursday night, how many minutes he plays. But against Colorado, he actually ended up getting 16 minutes, and I think that was kind of the reason that they brought him up to the first line, because Hitchcock thought he was playing well. So I don't think that this will change just like that. And at his price in the mid 4K range, I think he's well worth. Actually, he's only 3.7. Oh, he was 4K today, wasn't he? Maybe not.
Wait, who? Ritchie?
Yeah.
Hold on, give me 4 seconds. I can find it. Oh, come on. Ritchie was, drum roll please, 3.6K.
Oh, okay. Never mind. I must have been misremembering or looking at different. Maybe I was looking at Nick Ritchie. Who knows?
You probably were. It's okay. I've never messed up anyone's names, confused two players, but I feel like I don't know what you're doing, but it's okay. It'll happen to you occasionally.
I would never expect you to do that, DJ.
Yeah, that would be disrespectful to the player, our fans. I mean, really everyone. Wait, do you want me to jump right in quick, or?
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna. We've always kind of been fans of Michael Frolik, and he is getting power play time. They kind of the last game they played Frolik, Hamilton, Backlund, Giordano, and Tkachuk more than the Monahan Gaudreau power play, and I really hope that lasts. So I think Frolik is just super duper in play for Cash. He loves to shoot the puck. He's had 4 shots on goal in his past 2 games, and his minutes are only going up, trending upwards or staying around the 19-minute mark. So he's really a good cash play. And I think for stacks, Backlund is going to probably get a decent jump in ownership. He got a small jump in price, but he's only 4.4. They are still stackable together. I don't hate it for any reason. That line's going to probably dominate possession in a sense. The only concern would be they're probably going to match them up with Sagan, Ben, etc. So you're kind of looking at I don't know. I mean, you could even maybe look at Monahan Gaudreau just for that reason. Do you agree with that assessment?
Absolutely. I think Calgary at home is one of the few teams where I look at that matchup and I say that actually kind of steers me away from someone like Sagan, Ben.
Yeah.
But I mean, the Calgary guys are just so cheap that I don't think they're must-plays by any means, but I think they're the top point per dollar stack. Their minutes are super high. They're used regardless of situation. I mean, they're going to see 18 to 20 minutes every single night. And now that Frolik is back on that power play, I mean, I guess it's power play 1A or 1B, call it. But as long as he's there and Sam Bennett is not, I mean, that's obviously a huge boost to his overall value. And then Matthew Tkachuk just comes in, and he's been kind of the offensive spark for this line. The 3M's line is just so good. I think they're my top stack of the night. And I want Dallas to prove it to me again that they're one of the better defensive teams in the league, because they just got blown out by Colorado. We'll see what happens tonight in Edmonton, but maybe the early season results were a bit off, and that was just kind of a factor of playing some bad teams. So
yeah, no, I'm down with that. I guess just one last thing before we go into guaranteed goals. Is there any really cheap stacks, maybe line 3 type guys that you would be targeting in this game? Or are you looking at the obvious DeBrincat, who could probably see a decent, a sizable ownership jump? Was there anyone a line 3 that you really like as far as the numbers, projections or anything. I kind of wish we had Doug on right now to just kind of give us his sim take on that, because I don't have that up, but he would have it.
All right, I'll think about that. Why don't we do the top 3 stacks for each of us overall?
All right. I mean, no price involved.
Yeah, like price not considered.
Okay,
like,
so
you're going to
3 guys.
This is the team that I want to target tonight, or this is the line that I want to target.
Okay. So we're doing like a 3-man stack, correct? That's what you're saying?
Sure. Yep.
All right. Wow. I'm thinking Brassard, Hoffman, and Carlson. But that's kind of barring what I see from what they did tonight while we're recording, but what you guys see tomorrow. As long as they have power play time together, I'm very interested in that stack. I'm expecting Brassard to get huge minutes tomorrow. Hopefully some of them correlate with Hoffman, so I'm going to wait and see, but I like all 3 of those guys a lot.
All right, so let's see. I'll just kind of do this in a snake format. I will go with the Subban, Yossi, and Forsberg.
Okay.
Those guys are good. So I'll take
those guys are good. Scary good. Okay. Then I'll go with Backlund, Tkachuk, and Hamilton.
Ooh, even out for a league.
Going out for a lead. I mean, Hamilton he's 4,300 on DraftKings, and he's been getting, I'd say, more minutes.
I mean, so, he got 17.
20.
It sucks. Okay, yeah, he got 17
and then 20.
Yeah, so
they gotta give that guy more ice time. That's just all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, they do, but coaches are stupid, so that'll happen. Next up, I will take the Tarasenko, Schwartz, and Steen. Like, I think them and the Nashville stack are like really close in my opinion, but I think those are the 2 like top end high price stacks of the night.
Okay. I have one more, you said?
Yeah.
I will go with Taze, Saad, and the Brinkat.
Smart. Okay, and the cheaper stack that I've been looking at a lot recently. I've played him a few times too. Is you mentioned that Fiala's minutes were down, but Colton Sissons and Kevin Fiala play together on the second power play for Nashville. Sissons gets a lot of minutes. Fiala is super talented, and then their other line mate in Craig Smith is also on the power play too with them. So while I don't think I'll be like all in on them or anything, I think that if you're in need of like a super cheap stack, or you just kind of want to go a little bit off the board, I think that there's enough upside there for Sissons, Smith, and Fiala to be worth a look, and they will total you somewhere right about 10,000 for 3 players, which is like fantastic.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right. I really got to pee, so why don't we close this one down with some guaranteed goals?
All right.
I have mine already. Go.
All right. Guaranteed me a goal, DJ.
Tarasenko and DeBrincat. That wasn't hard.
No, probably not. I can play this game too. Let's go Hoffman and Frolik.
Perfect. All right, you close out the show. I'm gonna pee.
All right. So, thank you for listening, everybody. Be sure to check out our website, morningskapepod.com. Doug has updated the projections. They are now live. Version 2.0 is better than ever. Actually, this might be 3.0 now, because I guess last year was kind of 1.0. So, big shout out to oh crap, I had his name pulled up. All right, we'll shout you out in the next show. We might even get you on, but Doug got a huge hand from one of our listeners in designing this new sim. So props to him, and I will shout you out individually next show. And yeah, follow us on Twitter at morningskapepod, and leave us a review on iTunes if you like the show. So while DJ is busy peeing, I will just sign us off. From Doug, from DJ, and from myself, have a good slate, everyone, and we will see you.